What if I told you that one of Manhattan's most beautiful and peaceful neighborhoods was once open farmland, then a symbol of ambition,
and later a quiet refuge for revolutionaries, intellectuals, and dreamers? Most people pass through Hamilton Heights without ever realizing they're walking across layers of forgotten history. Before the brownstones, before the ivy wrapped around iron gates, before the soft hum of traffic echoed down tree-lined streets, this land belonged to a man whose name shaped the United States itself, Alexander Hamilton. In the early 1800s, Hamilton built a country home here called the Grange. At that time, this wasn't uptown Manhattan. It wasn't even really the city. It was countryside, rolling hills, open air, orchards stretching toward the Hudson River. Imagine standing there when the skyline didn't exist. When the loudest sound was wind moving through grass. Hamilton didn't live there long. In 1804, he was killed in his infamous duel with Aaron Burr. But the land kept his name. And the Grange still stands today. Though few people know it was physically moved twice to preserve it as Manhattan modernized around it. Entire structures were lifted and relocated because history was considered too valuable to lose. As the 19th century progressed, Manhattan expanded north. Developers saw opportunity in these hills. Wealthy New Yorkers wanted distance from downtown congestion, and elegant brownstones began rising along quiet avenues. Rows of detailed facades, carved stonework, sweeping stoops, architecture that still defines Hamilton Heights today, especially along Convent Avenue. But the neighborhood's real power wasn't just architectural beauty, it was intellectual gravity. Hamilton Heights quietly became home to some of the most influential black thinkers in American history. During the Harlem Renaissance, this area pulsed with cultural and political energy. W.E.B. Du Bois lived here, along with other scholars, writers, and activists who were reshaping the national conversation about race, identity, and equality. Behind closed doors, strategies were discussed. Essays were drafted. Ideas that would ripple across generations were born inside these townhouses. The neighborhood became more than a place to live. It became a place to think. Just blocks away stands the City College of New York. Founded in 1847, it earned the nickname the Harvard of the Proletariat, one of the first tuition-free institutions of higher education in America. It opened its doors to immigrants, working-class students, and those who couldn't afford elite universities. From its classrooms emerged Nobel Prize winners, judges, scientists, activists, people who would shape industries and movements. Hamilton Heights wasn't flashy like Midtown. It didn't have the spectacle of Times Square. Its power was quieter. It was a launching ground for ambition. But no neighborhood moves through history untouched. By the mid-20th century, economic hardship struck much of Harlem, including Hamilton Heights. Disinvestment, rising crime, and housing neglect changed the landscape. Some brownstones were abandoned. Others were subdivided into cramped apartments. The elegance of the past faded behind boarded windows and cracked facades. The same streets that once carried intellectual debates now carried uncertainty. Families struggled. Businesses closed. The beauty remained, but it felt fragile. Yet Hamilton Heights did something remarkable. It endured. It bent under pressure, but it did not disappear. And quietly, almost invisibly, the next transformation was already beginning. In the late 20th century, artists began noticing something others overlooked: the architecture. The space. The light pouring through tall townhouse windows, the historic details hidden beneath years of neglect. Rents were lower than downtown, studios were affordable, creative energy slowly returned. Musicians moved in, writers rented apartments. Painters restored neglected interiors. Hamilton Heights began to hum again, not as farmland, not as an elite retreat, but as something layered and complex. But revival carries tension. As safety improved and restorations increased, property values rose. Cafes opened, investments flowed north. And with that change came an uncomfortable question: who gets to stay? Longtime residents who had endured the neighborhood's hardest decades now faced rising rents and mounting pressure. Gentrification reshaped the streets in subtle and obvious ways. Restored brownstones stood only blocks away from public housing developments. Two realities, side by side. Hamilton Heights became a living example of New York's contradictions: beauty and struggle, preservation and displacement, growth and loss. Yet beneath those tensions lies a deeper truth about the neighborhood's character: resilience. In the 1970s, when parts of Harlem were facing deep crisis, local residents formed neighborhood associations. They planted trees with their own hands. They organized block cleanups. They watched over each other's children. There were no headlines celebrating them, no large grants funding them, just neighbors refusing to surrender their streets. That grassroots determination helped preserve the community long enough for revival to take hold. And through it all, the Grange still stands. Alexander Hamilton's home overlooking a neighborhood that has reinvented itself repeatedly. There is something almost poetic about that. A founding father who believed in ambition and upward mobility resting in a place that would become a gateway for immigrants, scholars, artists, and working-class families seeking opportunity. Hamilton Heights is not frozen in time. It is layered. It carries farmland beneath pavement, debate beneath brownstone walls, jazz beneath modern playlists, memory beneath renovation. Walk its streets at sunset, and the stone facades glow warm against the fading light. Children play on stoops. Students climb the steps toward City College. Elder residents sit outside buildings they've lived in for decades. Newcomers carry groceries into freshly restored homes, all of them sharing the same ground. Hamilton Heights does not shout its importance. It does not advertise itself as loudly as other parts of Manhattan. You have to look carefully. You have to listen closely. And when you do, you realize you're not just standing in another New York neighborhood. You're standing inside chapters of American history layered one on top of another. Ambition, intellect, struggle, resilience, reinvention. Some neighborhoods are destinations people visit. Hamilton Heights is something else entirely. It is proof that places, like people, can evolve without losing their soul.